Okay, so we're making progress in our interaction system, but there's a little problem because if we play, we can't see where we're actually aiming. Only if we've hit something, we see this little dot, but we don't know where the center of the screen is. So that's why we need Crosshair. So we have to dive into UI in Unreal Engine. We will just scratch the surface in this episode because we will just create some basic Crosshair, but later we will dive deeper into UI. We will create some menus, we will create pause screen, we will create main menu, and all of that stuff. But now let's just focus on simple Crosshair. Okay, so how UI works in Unreal. We have something called widgets, widget blueprints. So let's just create one and I'll show you how it works and what it does. Let's go to content, main, and let's just create a new folder called UI. And this is also blueprints, so let's just set this color to blue and let's open this folder. And here we will create a new folder called widgets. Okay, let's set its color to blue again, and let's open it up. So let's just right click, go to user interface and widget blueprint. Then we need to click user widget and let's name this WB underscore main UI. And let's open it up. So this blueprint has designer and graph. Graph is just like every other graph in Unreal. We can do some basic code here, but in designer, we actually design our UI. And I will just show you the basics. The first thing that we need to actually start, we need canvas panel. And canvas panel is basically like our screen. So this is something that goes first on the bottom. And then we can stock some images, some UI elements on top of this canvas panel. This canvas panel represents our screen. As you can see, it has the dimensions of our screen. So now all we need is a basic crosshair. On the left side of this palette, you have borders, buttons, checkboxes, and a lot of that stuff. We won't cover everything in this course. We will just cover some basic elements of UI. For example, size boxes. We need size box to create our crosshair. So let's just search for size box, and you can just grab this and put it here. So size box is like a box that we can size however we want. And then if we place things inside the size box, it will just maintain the size of the size box. So you can see on the left top corner, we have this thing, and this is called anchor. So we need to change this anchor point to the center right here. And this is center of our screen, obviously, but this crosshair is a little bit off. So on the details panel, we can just set its position to 0, 0. But again, it's not exactly in the center. This top left corner is the center of our screen. So that's why we need to change alignment to 0.5 and 0.5. And now this size box is exactly in the middle. Before I forget, we can rename this size box to default crosshair, compile, save. But this crosshair will be a little bit too big. So let's make it like 10 by 10. Okay, we can zoom in. And now we want to add a like super basic circle inside the size box. So let me show you how we can do that. Before we add this circle, I will add overlay because I want to add actually two circles. Let's just grab this overlay, move it into the size box. And we're adding overlay because I want to create a black circle. And then on top of that circle, I will create a slightly smaller white circle. So it will look like a white circle with black border. To add a circle, we need to add an image. Let's grab image and move it into our overlay, our div. So you can see on the left side, we have this hierarchy. We have canvas panel, then we on top of the canvas panel, we have our default crosshair, which is our size box, and we have overlay. And on top of that overlay, we have this image. So how we turn this square into a circle? Pretty simple. We just need to go to brush and we need to change it from image to rounded box. And now you can see it is beautiful circle. And as I said before, the first circle should be black, so we can just change its color opacity to black. And also, pretty important thing, uh, we have something called padding. So padding means like the distance between the edges. So if I type 1, the circle will get a little bit smaller because it has this border right here, as you can see. And now we can duplicate this image. So Control D, and we will change this image color, the second image color, to white, and we will change the padding to 2. And now you can see we have this little white dot with a small black border. It is pretty small, but trust me, it will look good on the in the actual game. But if we click play right now, nothing happened. We don't have this crosshair because we created this blueprint, widget blueprint, but we need to add it to the viewport. And how we can do that? We need to do it inside BP Player. So let's go back to event graph. So let's go up here because we will use event called begin play. If you search for begin play, there's a function. This is like an event that fires when the game is started. So everything that we'll do here will fire where the game will just start. And we will do a couple of things in this event. So we can just create a new function called initialization or something like that. Let's go back to event graph and plug this initialization function here. We can also comment this initialization, okay, and we can comment this tick, okay, and we can move it down like that. All right, so let's go into this initialization function. So we will create a sequence. Sequence is basically like a sequence. It will do this first, and then we'll go to this. We can also add pins, so it will go here as well. Basically, it's just to make our graph a little bit cleaner because we can connect nodes infinitely, but we can use sequence and it will do the same, but it will just look cleaner. So grab from this first pin and let's say create widget. Okay. Now we need to select our widget blueprint, which is WB main UI. And you can see this node has been renamed to create WB main UI widget. Let's just compile, save, and this widget is created. Now we can store this as a variable. So let's promote to variable main UI ref. And the last thing that we need to do is to grab from this variable and we need to add to viewport. Okay, because this node, this function just creates this blueprint, so it exists somewhere. Then we're saving it as a variable, and then we're adding it to viewport, so it will be actually displayed in our game. So now when I press play, you can see we have this little crosshair that we just created. It is super basic, super simple, but it just works for our game.